New leadoff man, changing up the order. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Neither does he.
The first playoff ranking comes out tonight. How much will you pay attention to that, and what do you say to the kids about it at this point?
Yeah, I don't really say much about it. I mean, I know it's great for college football and for everybody to talk about, but nobody talks about who was ranked in week 8, 9, or 10. They always talk about where it was at the end of the season, and that's all that matters to us is playing in this game, because if we want to be ranked high, we have to keep winning.
You faced a desperate team in Penn State last week. What about this week? Another desperate team?
Well, I've watched the film, and this is a very good team. The way that they've played, first off, statistically ranking in both sides of the ball, they're very good. I think they're 27th in the country in scoring. They've played team up north tough. They played Oklahoma tough. They played Michigan State tough. And so I've just been very impressed with them and think they're doing a great job. So just like any other game in the Big Ten, especially when you go on the road, this is going to be a battle. And, it is truly like March Madness right now. If you win, you move on. And we have to look at every game that way. I mean, it's quite a run we're on. We knew that 2 weeks ago when we started it. But this is a very, very good Nebraska team that we have to be ready for. And I don't care what the record says. I mean, I watched the film, and they're good. And they have good coaches. So we got to have a great week of practice.
Fourth row left, Colin Gate, right.
Hey, Ryan. I was curious, I wanted to ask about the linebacker room. I mean, it's even smaller than normal heading into Nebraska based on the call against Steele. And I'm wondering how he's taken this week, especially with missing that first half, and what do you expect in his absence during the first half?
Yeah, I think first off, it's a unique situation in that it was the first play of the second half. So it's really brought light in my eyes to the fact that there's some inequity on this rule, where if it's the first play of the second half or the last play of the second half, that's significantly different. And so in my mind, the rule should be changed into a 30-minute penalty as opposed to the number of halves, because when you do it shouldn't be the determining factor on how the penalty is assessed, if that makes sense. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as you know, we're playing, with a different style of defense now, and we play with 3 safeties now. So, the numbers have changed with that. But now, EA is going to have to come in there and step up. Tommy's going to have to get in there, and Coach Washington will move those guys around, and then get Steele back in the second half.
Field, I mean, linebackers, safeties. I mean, what have you seen from those guys in terms of pass coverage, and what you want to see in terms of improvement? It seems like a lot of opponents are attacking you guys from the slot, tight ends, like just in the middle of the field. What have you seen from them, and what do you guys want to improve?
I think, anytime, you mix up the coverages, you're going to see different teams attack you different ways, and consistency with our drops, and like you said, with our eyes, are all things that we're working on, and making sure that, we all work together on this thing, because when you do play zone, I mean, everybody has to be, in their area of the field and doing a great job in that. So, I think there's different styles of attack based on what we're giving the defense, or what we're giving the offense in terms of looks. And I think that they've had some really good snaps and things they need to improve on. But it's the same message that we've had. I mean, the issues are still there, and we got to keep addressing them, even though, we played better on Saturday night.
Ryan, I want to ask you about CJ running the ball. He's not running very often. Is that because you're telling him not to run to try and protect him, and because you guys have so many weapons on offense, or do you feel like he should be running a little bit more?
No, I mean, I think we have some runs where, he's reading somebody, and then based on what that defender does, he'll make the decision whether to run it or not. And we have that as part of the offense. And then there's also ones where we're scrambling and making plays downfield. And, going back on the film, I thought he made pretty good decisions. With his eyes downfield, he got the third down conversion to Mayan. Mayan put it on the ground, but it ended up getting reversed. I thought he did a good job on the one to Garrett. So he's doing a good job of extending plays. And then he's also done a good job this year of making plays with his feet. And he'll continue to have to do that. I mean, that's going to have to be part of his game. And, looking back on it, I don't think there's many that I would have him do anything other than what he did. But certainly that is a part of his game.
I'm not suggesting he should run the ball 10 times a game. I know he's not Justin Fields, but typically, in an ideal world, how much do you want that to be a part of your offense? Both him scrambling at times and a couple of, called quarterback runs.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what the defenders do, and if we're reading somebody and they're playing the quarterback, then it's a handoff. If they play the running back, then it's a pull, and so you just don't know, but we have part of that in our offense, and when we read. And there's certain plays we just hand the ball off, and then we have the nakeds off of those.
Front row right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, back to the Steel Chambers targeting penalty. You mentioned some, I guess, the inequity with the miss now the first half against Brandon. Did you feel it was the right call at the time? And you looked pretty animated on the sideline during that play.
Yeah, I just feel like in real time it's a very difficult call. I think if you're Steele in that spot, someone's running full speed at you and then goes down on their knees. Boy, it's just in real time that's very, very difficult. And I think that the rule is in place for the right reasons to protect our players, and so for that I absolutely support it. But I also think that there's a difference between what's going on in real time and what's shown on a replay, and that's the challenge that our referees are faced with, and it's not easy. Don't get me wrong, and certainly we're always going to advocate for our guys, and that's what I was doing.
And Master, you mentioned he was, I guess, close to returning last week. He was on the unavailable list. Just what's your plan of practice this week, or just what's the plan with him?
Yeah, kind of day to day right now, and hoping to get some work out of him today.
Third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, you talked a lot about coaching versus scheme versus execution. When you look at the struggles in the red zone against Penn State, do you look at that as we need to do a better job coaching, we need to call better plays, or do we just need to execute better?
Both. I mean, I think we look back and we could have executed much better, certainly in some of the shorter yardage situations. We got ourselves with the penalty a couple times, a false start, and anytime you do that down in the red zone, 5 yards is seems like a mile away. So certainly that was part of it. I also think there was some schematic things we probably, looking back on it, could have done a better job with.
When you just look at that game, the Oregon game, seems like two best defenses you've played. You guys haven't had a lot of success in the red zone. What do you think are the things that need to change for that to not be the case going forward?
Yeah, I think first off, you have to run the ball well when you're in the red zone. That's just part of it, and I think we've thrown the ball well, and I think statistically speaking, we've done a pretty good job down there and always have. But like you said, there was times in both of those games where we just haven't finished drives, and you can point the finger at a lot of things, but you have got to execute at a high level in the pass game, and then you have to be able to be really physical in the run game and make 3-yard runs, 5-yard runs. And the minute you get off schedule or take a negative play, you put yourself at risk because you just run out of room. And against good defenses, you have to be on point there. And certainly a plan to win. We spent a lot of time down there, but that is a challenge.
Deep left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated.
Hey, Coach. Hey, I know you can't control the playoff rankings and all that stuff so early on, but I want to ask you about championship DNA. What is it about this team that you've seen so far through this season that makes you think, hey, we're on the right track where we are capable of being one of those 4 teams?
Well, I think we've experienced a lot so far, and I think that's good for a young team to have experienced big wins, big losses. We've experienced close games. We've played on the road. We've played at home. We played night games. We played afternoon games. We've been up. We've been down. And the offense has played well. The defense has played well. The offense has played okay. The defense has played okay. It's kind of been one of those seasons where we're already experienced a lot of things. So I like that part of it. We are still young, but we've gained a lot of experience throughout the year. But just the day-to-day, I've been impressed with how these guys have approached practice, how serious they approach their preparation. I think this team likes football. They like preparing at a high level. And so now we've got to really prove how consistent we are here in November, because this is where championships are won.
Can you elaborate on the challenges that your offensive line faced this past week? It felt like they had some tough moments that we haven't seen from them in previous weeks.
Yeah. We ended up, when you look at the stat sheet, pretty good in that area, but just the efficiency, I think we were less than 50% efficient running the ball in terms of the number of runs. And I mean, listen, Penn State has done a good job for years with that, and this year is no exception. They, they have a good front, they have good movement, and I think we were 34 and 34 in terms of plays, pass and run, and we're always looking for that balance, and that's important to be able to control the game, and we have to be able to stay on schedule and stay efficient in the run game, and again, whether it's communicating up front, whether it's handling looks that we haven't seen and making those adjustments. That's all important, and I think we did that, especially in the second half. You can see that we made some really good adjustments in that area and hit some big runs, which was very, very important in controlling that game in the second half. But that's what you have to do in these games. You just can't throw it 70% of the time, or else you're not going to control the game, and I think that's important. But sometimes you have to stick with it and keep working through the tough things, and when you're going against a team like Penn State, that's not always easy.
Your defense, was that the best that they've looked this year?
I think they had good plays for sure. There's still a lot to improve on, and we're going out against a very good defense this week. This is, I think it's the second-ranked offense in terms of total yards in a conference. They do a great job, and Martinez has played a lot of football, and they have a very good scheme. So we'll see. I think there was a lot of positives for sure. Certainly, anytime you create the turnovers we did and get defensive scores, you put our team in a much better position to win. So I think that it's continuing to build, but we've got to continue to stay disciplined and stay on it. And we talk a lot about white belt mentality of just starting right at the beginning and starting with fundamentals every week when you start. And we got to do that on defense again this week because we got a good team.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Letterman Ross.
And that champion list for the offense was pretty short. Would you ever fudge the numbers to send a message to the team?
No, I think that's something that we talked about early in the season, is that we have a standard here, and in order for you to be a champion, you have to play over 15 plays and grade over 80%. And we had one guy on offense. That was it. And we can try to make people feel better, but that's not the way this game works. And so guys got to be held accountable. The position coaches got to be held accountable for their units. Each guy's got to be held accountable to do their job over 80% in terms of execution, and that didn't happen. I think if it does, it's a whole different game. But I think that the message is also that, to win ugly like that says a lot about our character and who we are as a team. We didn't just splinter, fall apart, start pointing fingers. We played against a good defense. We didn't execute as well as we'd like to have, but we still won the game against a very good opponent, and it says a lot about this team.
I know that the win is obviously the most important thing, but how powerful of a motivator do you think grading a champion is for an individual?
I don't know, but I think they take a lot of pride in it. I mean, our meetings are pretty juiced up in here. We have a lot of fun with it. The guys who win, everybody in the room understands that if you grade a champion, there's a lot that goes into that. It isn't just playing well on that day. It's the whole year. It's the sacrifices. It's the lifting. It's the running. It's the preparation in order to be at competitive excellence on that Saturday. And we whoop it up in here, have a lot of fun, bring them down, laugh, and then show clips of those guys playing well. And I think they take a lot of pride in it. I do.
Front row middle, Bill McMillan, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, I know your mentality is to always treat every game like a playoff game, especially now.
Yeah.
It was easy to get up for Penn State, obviously. You're facing a team that is 3-6. I know they haven't lost a game by more than 8 points.
Right.
How do you kind of make sure that your guys are as up for this game as they were for Penn State or will later on?
Well, you just talk to them about it, and you show them the film, and these guys are sharp. Like you said, they haven't lost a game by, I think it's more than 8 points. So these guys are very good, and you can look at the record if you want, or you can watch the film and realize what you got here. But they need to understand that it is March Madness. And so you watch across the country week in and week out, a lot of things have happened this year. And so we can't let that happen to us, and we can't have any regrets. And the only way to do that is to focus on right now and not be distracted. If you start looking ahead, if you start worrying about tomorrow, that's where you get distracted, and we got to stay disciplined in that area.
After the game, if you thought that that close call would be good for your team, now you've had a few days, you've watched the film. What's your sense of it? Will this help you think?
I hope so. We'll see how this week goes, and how this practice week goes, and if we can get guys to really dig in and understand that we have a chance to be really good. We beat a good Penn State team and didn't play our best football, and so I hope that catapults us into this week and into this game, and really helps us take off into the month of November.
Front row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Last year, there was an NCAA rule giving teams or giving athletes, I guess, the election days off. Did you guys change your practice week at all this week, or did you seek the waiver to keep things, I guess, on the usual schedule?
Yeah, we applied for the waiver and got granted. Yeah.
Why?
Well, we just felt like this year was much different than last year.
On the Neatote, I guess, what do you kind of see as his role right now? Do you like him in kind of a niche situation, or do you see him being able to still build towards something bigger this year?
Well, I think he's going to have to step up this week, with Steele being out, and he's coming off of that nagging injury, and so now he's healthy again. And I think when you combine the injury with the fact that he kind of went through preseason not being sure if he was going to play, now he's starting to come around. So now it's about the time he's got to step up.
Front row left, Bill Landis, The Athletic.
Ryan, I think when you guys opted to play Thayer and Paris at guard, some of us wondered about just consistent leverage and pad level with bigger guys playing that position. Then you have a right tackle who's 6 foot forever. Has that been any kind of issue with those guys? Did that pop up at all against Penn State on Saturday night?
No, I don't think so. Those guys are doing a great job in there and have. I just think it was more of making adjustments on some of the looks that we got, and it wasn't. Some of the plays were blocked pretty good, and just the timing of everything, and didn't quite pop things out to the next level. But there was other things that we didn't block very well either. So it's a little bit of everything in there. But no, those guys, I think can go to tackle, they can go to guard, they can move around. They're pretty versatile in there, and they have good flexibility, so they can get underneath guys inside.
And down on the red zone, I know you said you were overall fairly pleased with the what you had called, and maybe execution was a problem. We've seen you in the past use a lot of jet motion, orbit motion, just to kind of create some movement down there, and you guys didn't really seem to do much of that. What's the balance between trying to dress some stuff up that way and then just sort of running what you run?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, when you do stuff like that, you're not sure of the look. When you stay stationary, you can kind of identify what the look is, and then try to get into the best play possible. And so that's what we're doing in that game.
Real solid effort. Question number 600. Who gets the pass over the playoff?
Of the year?
Today? Or?
Right in here. Yeah.
I see that. See it, Jerry.
Did you win anything?
Up on that.
You have two guys in the Heisman race. Does that ever come up in conversation, you with them or they with you?
No, we don't talk about that.
And are you surprised at the struggles by Nebraska now in year 4 under Scott Frost?
Well, again, I think they're very close. I think when you look at the way they played this year, they played strong, and they have a good team. And I don't follow them that closely, but I just watch the film, and I can tell you they have good coaches, and they're playing well, and they've come up short on some of these games, but I know they're very dangerous.
Third row right, Jeremy Birmingham, Letterman row.
Ryan, to Bill's point, reputationally you're kind of regarded as one of the premier play callers in the country, and it looked like Saturday was almost intentionally milquetoast in the red zone. Was there any point of that where you guys, as a staff, are challenging your offensive line to win some battles one-on-one? Does that ever come into the conversation?
Well, I think, you have to be able to win down in the red zone running the football. You just do. If you want to go win championships, you have to be able to do that. And we didn't do that well enough down there. And, 3 and 4 yard gains have to turn into 5 and 6, we've done a really good job of throwing down there. We have to do a better job of running the ball. And that's just the bottom line. And but there was also some things that got us out of whack in terms of penalties. We get the ball 4th and 1, and down there, and we're going to go for it, and we false start. We false started to make it like 2nd and 13 or whatever that was. And anytime you do that down there, when you're fighting for every inch, it's going to get you out of whack. We hadn't done that in the past, and that we score on those 2 possessions, maybe you feel a little better as well.
On the other side of that, the recruiting weekend that you guys had, obviously you have a night game, you have 50-some visitors in. You did things a little different, had a lot of meetings during the day. And how exhausting was this weekend for you guys as a staff? And do you feel like that's a standard or a practice that you guys are going to try to do in the future?
Yeah, it was a long week and a long weekend for sure. There was a lot going on. It was great. I thought that just the night in general was off the charts. I thought Gene and the whole administration, everybody at Ohio State, the fans. It was a memorable night. Just the way that everything was run, it was really first class. and it was great for our recruits and their families to be around it and to see it. And I thought everything about that went well. But yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot to juggle on a weekend like that, with so many visitors and families, and they're a priority for us when they get on campus. But we also have to go win against Penn State and win a game. And so, but that's kind of college football. You have to be able to juggle a lot of balls and be able to handle it.
Front row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Just to kind of follow up on that, when you guys are putting weekends like that together, when you know there's going to be 50-plus people here, are there projection or expectations that some success is going to come out of that in the near future after that, or do you guys just kind of stay patient after that?
It's just a piece of the puzzle. It's part of the relationship building. And anytime you come on campus, you get a chance to see something different, whether it's meeting with somebody from the business school or going to a basketball game or, spending time with the position coach or going to see campus or whatever that is. Coming to a game is a special experience. And that's, another box that these guys are able to check off with their families. And I have to give, Mark Pantoni and his staff a lot of credit. I mean, they're the ones that are behind all of it in terms of the organization and managing all of those people. And there's a lot to that. And I thought they were excellent.
Just switch gears a little bit. This was the first time in a couple of weeks CJ has actually, been kind of challenged out there. Didn't look easy for him the entire time. Maybe, how do you think he handled Saturday in comparison to maybe how he handled the Oregon game?
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought he played well and made some good throws. I think he wished he had some plays back. But again, anytime you're competing against somebody like Penn State and a really good defense, one of the top in the country, you're gonna have good plays and bad plays. And we talk about it all the time. Like, reality isn't just going in and scoring on 19 straight possessions. That's not reality. I mean, reality is it's hard, it's tough. Every decision matters. If we're gonna have penalties or we're gonna have mistakes, then we're gonna get ourselves off schedule, and that's just the reality of it. So, again, I think a lot to learn from this game, but overall, I thought he played winning football. He didn't grade out a champion, but there was still a lot of positives there.
Front row right, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Ryan, as you watched the video of that game, did you ever feel like you were part of some grand experiment by the officials to not call holding on the opposing team's offensive line and see how things go? And, in particular, there were some egregious moments out there. Did you make any note of that to the Big Ten, and just what was your take on it?
We always, we'll look at the film afterwards, and if there's things that are concerning, we send it to the office for review and then some feedback, and we did that. Listen, the refs have a tough job. I mean, they hear it from all angles, and I get it, but certainly we have to advocate for our guys, and when we see something that doesn't quite look right, we have to make sure we recognize that and do that in certain ways, but also being respectful and being professional. But, I mean, certainly there were some things we did turn in, yes.
Yeah. And
try to answer that the best way possible.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I don't think you get a fine for that.
Okay, good.
How much does CJ have any autonomy on the field when he sees them stack the box, load the box, to get out of a play, or does that always come from the sideline? Like when y'all frantically
Sure.
signaled in the pass to Chris Olave, which was a huge call. But what is his autonomy at this point in his career?
Yeah, he does have some things where he'll come up and he'll change it, certainly in protection, but even in the run game, he has some things that will give him a couple plays, and we're adding more and more of that to his plate as he goes. But for the most part, we handle most of the decisions on the sideline.
Third row middle, Doug Lane-Reese, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, specifically in the red zone, I think the second and third down runs before the false start on 4th and 1. The backside linebacker kind of knifed in and made 2 tackles. Is that schemed that way and you're leaving that guy and hoping you get around the other side, or is there a blocking assignment that should have been made there?
Yeah, it wasn't executed well. Yeah, no, I mean, we certainly account for him in the blocking scheme, and it just didn't get done. And, one of them, I think we could have executed better. The other one, we probably could have done a better job giving him that look during the week.
And Penn State seemed to, I guess they just shift their defensive line a lot right before the snap. The hard thing is, it felt like you guys blocked up everybody for the first however many games. And so to see any mistakes on the offensive line was surprising.
Sure.
Did that throw you guys off with any of your assignments, those late shifts, and what can you learn from that going forward?
Yeah, no, it did. And I thought they did a good job with the way that they kind of changed up the looks. And, there's a lot to learn from it, and, the different looks that we can give them. Sometimes you're going to see things that you haven't practiced, and And I think we can probably help them a little bit too in terms of, how we're identifying things when we start to get into a game like that a little bit faster. I thought we did a good job of that in the second half. Probably could have got to that a little bit sooner. Yep.
Far left, Mark Snyder, press pro.
Snap count penalties. Was there a common thread with those other than them being flagged, or was it try to get the jump on them because the running game was not going? Because that was so uncharacteristic.
1,000%. Yeah, no, I can't sit here and tell you there was one thing there that got us out of whack. I think some of maybe the pre-snap movement a little bit, for Luke, especially at center, got us a little bit, out of whack there. But there was nothing else in particular that we can point to on that area other than just lack of focus and discipline. And we've got to do a better job of that this week.
When you're in practice the next 2 days, I mean, is that something that's easily cleaned up, or is that, because again, that didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. No. And usually if a guy false starts or something, we'll have him do a lap, and we're all over that. And we haven't had that many of those issues, but we'll be all over it this week to try to get it addressed. Yeah.
Go to the far right, Adam Chase, WBNS.
You guys had another defensive score this week. I think Jerron Cage is probably still out there running, trying to recover. But how does that help you guys offensively with a young quarterback build his confidence up, knowing that your defense is putting up points?
Yeah, I mean, well, when you get something like that happen, it flips the game, and I think it's the 6th time this year, which is unbelievable. So it's a huge lift for the offense, and I think that when you look at Jerron's career here, it's a tribute to him and his hard work. It hasn't always gone exactly the way that he's wanted, and he went through kind of a tough September and August there, and to see him do that and have that opportunity in that game, I mean, that's something I'll definitely remember from this year, is that the fact that he came up in that big spot and made that play. So it was exciting for everybody to see that.
Fourth row right, Zach Carpenter, Letterman Row.
Hey Ryan, you had a couple in-state offers go out Saturday night. Just wondering if the recruiting philosophy of recruiting in-state guys is changing at all moving forward, maybe offering guys a little sooner than you might have in the past?
Well, we've been able to actually see guys play, which has been great. We actually have been able to get back on the road for the first time in a couple of years, and that's really helped. And then, we now have a lot more video to go off of, and we're seeing guys in person. We almost went a year and a half without being able to look somebody in the eye, and now when they're on campus, we can do that. We can watch the film. We can actually go watch them play in a game, and then they come over and we get to see them in person and shake their hand and see what they look like physically and project, how they can physically mature. And that really allows us the opportunity to get ahead of this stuff.
Yeah, and then asked you last week about the big official visits weekend, first week of June. Had a lot of those same guys in that week on campus again this weekend. Yeah. Did you feel like it was a bookend to that weekend in June? And was that sort of the hope or the plan when you guys did that originally in June?
No, but I think that those first couple weekends in June were an opportunity for us to do what I just said, see people in person, look them in the eye, shake their hand, get to know what they're like. We didn't know what these guys were like. I mean, you can go on Zoom and you can make phone calls, but that's very different. And that's a huge part of recruiting, especially for me as the head coach, because, the talent is the talent. We're looking for the right fit, guys who want to be Buckeyes, who love Ohio State. When adversity hits, they're going to work through tough times and not just get into the transfer portal. And so a big part of recruiting is looking somebody in the eye and saying, this is the right place for me. And we also feel the same way. And that's why we had so many guys here in June, because we need to look guys in the eye to find out if they were the right fit for us, not just athletically. There's a lot of guys out there that can probably play football here. And now to see those guys come back, those relationships have continued to build. Now we're in a really good place with a lot of these guys.
And final couple questioners rather, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, back in September when you guys lost to Oregon, Jackson still had just a breakout game and had his best career day, and then you guys struggle offensively, but the lone champion is Jackson. Is there something that he's doing that just makes him, just consistently always there that some of the other guys can learn from on the offense?
I think he's certainly talented. I mean, he has a great skill set of quickness inside. He can understand space. He knows how to set guys up. He's got strong hands. He's very competitive. He's tough. Does a really good job blocking. I think those are all his strengths. He's got more than that, I guess, but and he's highly competitive. And I think those are the things that, you know, the rest of the guys in the offense see.
Grown since earlier in the season when he's finally getting on the field and not just playing in a truncated season. What have you seen from him that has developed?
Just maturity of his daily approach and his consistency. You know, you can flash when you're young, but you have to bring it every single day. You got to be able to take the meeting to the field. You know, the first time a play's installed, you know, does it take 2 and 3 times before he gets it right, or can you visualize that and work out all the kinks in the first couple times he runs it, so that when you get to Saturday, you only have so many reps on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to get a single play right. And the maturity of a veteran player is that he doesn't need a whole bunch of reps to get that right with the quarterback. And I think I've noticed that in the last couple of weeks.
And we'll finish up with Fourth Row Middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, back to the red zone stuff. Obviously, you guys have had success in that area this year. So when you have a game like this where it's a struggle, how do you balance not overdoing it in practice when you know that there's been success and film to watch, and then saying, hey, maybe this is an issue as we play better teams? How does that balance work this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to change how we allocate our time. It's just we got to do a better job of executing and you know, finding the right things to put our guys in the right positions to be successful. That's it. And it's a little bit of both in there, and we'll continue to work on it. And you know, you start to overdo it in one area, it'll show up in another area. So and we've got our hands full on first, second down, and on third down as well.